Lauren René Flask, welcome on VH Berries. Good afternoon.
Flask. I like how you said flask. I don't drink anymore, so.
This is an inside joke about your name.
Well, you said flask instead of flax, but it's a common error.
I'm very grateful and I'm very happy to have this opportunity to discuss about your current and future project because you are involved in a bunch of stuff right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. It's busy. It feels good. It's a little overwhelming at times, but it's really good. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, let's see. I'm just in a constant state of channeling whatever the energy I'm feeling in these current times. I'm trying to channel it through music. So I'm pretty much writing a lot and wrapping up some old projects that have kind of been waiting to be finished because either I wasn't feeling creative in the moment or we just moved our recording studio. So it took a couple months to get it up and running. So right now, yeah, I'm just playing catch up on a bunch of stuff and it feels good to wrap up old projects. And I'm about to finish a record for 2MR, my second EP, which I just released a record with them earlier this year. And it was about a year and a half late due to COVID, but I think the delay in the release was actually kind of perfect. So I'm pretty grateful.
So Lauren, right now you're a DJ, a producer, but you like to consider yourself also an activist, which is the first of your priority, if I can say.
Yeah, it's very, very important right now. I think just, the times we're living in, I mean, a lot of people woke up very relatively recently. But I think, and I welcome everybody who's, woken up because we need everybody to fight this thing. But I think for me, especially with 2020, I didn't feel particularly creative that year. We were all dealing with multiple traumas on multiple levels, whether personally or globally or civilly. So 2020, I've considered myself, pretty political for most of my adult life. But really, 2016 kicked it up when Trump won into high gear. And now, with everything that kicked off with the murder of George Floyd and countless others, it's just been so important to use my voice towards activism and raising up the voices of others. And it's been more important to me than music, to be perfectly honest, because when I think about myself and my music career, that feels very small in the grand scheme of things of what's genuinely important right now, which is, the great civil uprising that we're going through right now. So I'm very focused on that.
I truly believe that your work was crucial during the pandemic because maybe that all the festivals were closed, but I saw a surge from my point of view of DJ set that were made online from their home on YouTube, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mean like with performances and things, like people doing streams?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did one in, I think, April of 2020 for The Bunker, which is my crew. And I played for 9 hours in my living room. I felt like when I finished, it was like an ayahuasca experience. I just felt like I had channeled something so intense. And it helped me release a lot of anger. And I know a lot of others on The Bunker kind of do these marathon sets quite frequently, but this is kind of a new thing for me. But it's really an interesting way to stretch out as an artist because for, 8-hour, 9-hour, 10-hour sets, you're going to play different types of things that you normally wouldn't play. So it's exciting.
Because this is something that is really fascinating with all the DJs. How do you keep all this energy on set?
I mean, I have to ask myself the same thing. I mean, because I don't really take drugs anymore, really, like, except maybe psychedelics. But so for me, it's like a straight up sober experience. And so, I couldn't see myself doing these sets all the time because it is so much preparation and energetically so exhausting, but also so powerful in just terms of like my own personal healing, because I personally got a lot out of that 9-hour experience. But yeah, I mean, it's intense. It's super intense.
It's super intense, Lauren, but on the other side, there is the audience that is jumping everywhere.
I hope so.
So, you just mentioned, for example, drugs. This is a fight that is really important for you because you are involved in an organization that is called Last Night a DJ Saved My Life. Can you tell us a little bit more about this fight?
Yeah, it started basically, the original concept that I kind of came up with in 2019 was to basically just train all my friends who were DJs to be able to handle opioid overdoses. Hence the term "Last Night a DJ Saved My Life." Like if all the DJs, travel with naloxone, which is also known as Narcan, something happens to somebody in the club, you bring them to the booth and we'll help, But I, quickly understood that that's a very, very small market of training and we could do better than that. So, I mean, if you really get down to it, basically what ended up happening in New York, and I'm not sure if this is federally, but I believe it is federally, naloxone, aka Narcan, you used to need a prescription to be able to get this, right? So it's not accessible. The law changed to where you don't need a prescription to have naloxone anymore. You can go to any pharmacy and pick it up. But the problem with that is that it's $140 a pop. That's not accessible. It's not accessible in the neighborhoods it needs to be in most. So that's why I partnered with my friend Danielle Pickering, and she brought in Dr. Julius Johnson, and the three of us started the official collective. And Dr. Julius basically can get us as much naloxone as we need, and we can start training people. And they'll also, get this little blue card that allows them to get Narcan for the rest of their life without having to go through training again. So, and it takes an hour. So what we've been doing is going to clubs and training the bar staff, opening it to the general public, and just doing some general harm reduction knowledge base and supplying people with naloxone, and if we can, also fentanyl test strips, because what's happening here in America is fentanyl is being put in club drugs. People are always like, why do they do that? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because it's very cheap to make and easy to make. It's easy to synthesize. And what ends up happening is whatever drug it's in, whether it's ketamine or Molly or pressed pills or Xanax, there's fake Xanax going around with it. What it does is it makes you higher and it makes you come down quicker. So what that does for the drug dealer is it brings them back. They think they're getting the great stuff and they're coming back for more quicker. So the problem with that is that these people are not scientists, obviously, and 3 salt grain sizes of fentanyl will kill you. No matter how big you are, doesn't matter. So people are dropping. And in the pandemic alone, 2020, overdoses shot up by 41% because people are using alone. And I mean, it's terrifying out there right now. And I think that people are finally starting to listen. And they're seeing like, okay, this is actually a friend of a friend that passed away. Like, this is actually getting closer and closer to me. Maybe I should start, being safer, testing my drugs, and just being more proactive. So that's what we just have been advocating for, safer drug use. The real way around fighting this thing would be to legalize all drugs, because then they'll be regulated. But in America, I mean, people are still serving decades jail time for marijuana. And it's now pretty much, you can go to a drive-through and get cannabis. You know what I mean? It's like, we are a very slow moving country. We are supposed to be progressive, but we are the size of Europe, and we have red states, we have blue states. So there is no checks and balances. It's only battles of ego and money and capitalism. And I think the only reason marijuana is now being thought of in a positive light is because Republicans are starting to understand how much tax revenue sales of marijuana can bring in. And in a pandemic era, money is needed. So you're seeing, but marijuana is the safest thing and people are still in jail for it. The war on drugs has failed. So, it's difficult, but so in the meantime, we just have to, like I keep saying, we need to fight this opioid crisis locally. And if I get enough people to focus locally, then we're going to make global change. And if we can just save a couple lives, geez, yeah, count me in, right?
But not only, Lauren, this association is saving life locally, but your music is saving life globally in the entire universe.
Oh, well, thank you so much for saying that. I'm glad that, I hope my music does reach people, I'm kind of oblivious to what kind of reach my music has. I'll probably keep it that way. It keeps me grounded. I don't ever want to change or get dazzled by the music industry as I have in the past. I'm happy to hear you say that, though. Thank you very much.
And there is a parallel that can be made because on the name of this association, there are the 3 words, saved my life. You've made 10 years ago a collaboration with Sia, and recently she has released a song with this exact name.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Now you know.
Wow, I have to check that out. Now I know. Yeah, I love Sia. She's always going to be just this magical human who's just out to do the best for everyone. And she's such an animal advocate as well. I haven't seen her in quite some time, but I will just always love that woman. She's great.
Can you tell us about this collaboration, how it got started around 2009?
Yeah, she was dating one of my best friends at the time, JD Sampson. And so her and I became friends through JD. And I don't know, I just wrote this song and I was just like, I feel like maybe Sia would want to sing on it, just this house track. And I sent it to her and she was like, yeah, I'm down, And then she came to my loft when I lived over at McKibben Lofts, which is like this infamous loft building in Bushwick. She came over and she belted out. She wrote the lyrics in the car ride over, number 1. Number 2, she belted out the vocals very quickly in 20 minutes, and then left me with a bunch to work with to finish the song. So I finished the song and released it, and then she ended up covering it for her for the We Are Born album. So it was her first single. So that was really cool. It was my first time kind of experiencing something like that.
But Lauren, even in 2009, you already had a long journey behind you that started at the end of the 90s. Can you tell us about the Detroit Rays?
Yeah, it's Detroit raised me musically. So, I didn't really have a choice, but it's a beautiful thing. The access that I had to electronic music, whether it's industrial music, house, techno, jungle, electro, just blew me away. And also, trip hop was something that was really big for me. So, it took me a minute to finally try out DJing because everybody in my world was DJing and I was just liking playing my guitar. I was like kind of, I was just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And then one day I just went to my friend Ian's house and he had his 2 turntables on the ground. They were just little belt drive turntables with a mixer. And I put I think it was a Sade record and a jungle record. And I matched the beats and created kind of a new song out of this Sade record, and everybody kind of got quiet in the house. And then I was just like, oh, that's all it took. That's the bug. And three months later, I had my first gig at Motor in Detroit, which was, the club in Detroit in the 90s and in the country, really. It was one of the best clubs in the country.
And then, just before the new century and a million years, like 2000, you decided, no, I don't want to do jungle music anymore. I want to go into electro house and techno.
Exactly. I, jungle music wasn't really progressing anymore. It just got kind of stale and staunch and very white. So I just went back to my roots, really. I went back to the electro and house and, techno I'm more wary to use because the term now is a lot of techno, people would hear house music and hear these old techno tracks and say like, no, this is house music, when actually, no, this is original techno music right here. But yeah, I was done with jungle. And so I sold most of my jungle records and was just, pretty much haven't stopped playing house, techno, electro, and acid since then. Yeah.
So, recently you released your first EP called Out of Reality, which is also a title of one of the lead single of this EP. And you just mentioned that you are preparing the second one. So things are going very fluently.
Yeah, things feel good. I mean, with the first 2MR EP, it was a different type of release for me. I tend to do this. I go and I try to find something different, some different genre, some different something. And this is a new phase for me. So with what you're hearing with the EP for 2MR is really a culmination of the last 15 years. So you have the really like housey house of, You've Changed, and, the record I did a record with Nervous, things like that. And then, I have Creep, which was my band, which is more trip hop and ethereal and orchestral. And then after Creep was just, I went way underground with just jack and house and jack and techno and acid and just like deep stuff. And so I took all those 15 years of what I was feeling and put it into whatever this new sound was for me. So it feels like kind of a culmination of everything that's happened to me in 15 years. And so having the record be well received felt like a turning point for me, because for so long I didn't know. I kind of faulted myself for not sticking to one genre, because you stick to one genre, you'll get really good at it and you can get pretty successful. And for me, I just was not going to cut myself short. And it was almost to the detriment of my career, but it's called the long game. So I've understood. And the last 20 years of putting out all these different styles of music have turned into what I'm creating now. And people are starting to understand that you're not going to get a single genre out of me, and I'm always going to kind of push boundaries and try to grow. So it's starting to feel totally worth it. So the next record for 2MR is more of a push beyond that. It's almost like, I like to describe it as like 90s sad, horny teenage raver music. That's what the new EP sounds like for me. And I'm partnering with Elizabeth White. She is the singer with Pale Blue. And that's 2MR's Mike Simonetti's band, and he runs 2MR. And she's just incredible to work with, and it's really fun. So yeah, that will come out next year. I'm like working on the very last song, and we're going to have pretty cool remixes, which I won't say who yet. I'm just going to wait till I have them in my inbox. Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's good.
You mean that by having a diversity of genres, you are creating your own one, which is called the Lauren Flask one?
Yeah, I'll take that. Sure. Or I'm just gonna like, genres are just glorified opinions in my mind, and if I create something that resonates with other people, and they start creating music, I think that's like a huge, that's an exciting thing for me.
Lauren, thank you so much for your time and wishing you the best for your upcoming projects.
Thank you so much. Thanks for chatting with me. This has been lovely.